All right, good evening. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak tonight, they need to complete a speaker form found out in the lobby. And comments will take place during the community comment section towards the beginning of the meeting. Before that, introduce the folks up here at the table. To my right, Deputy Superintendent Chase Ramey, welcome to the table. Directors Maka Pilcher-Hayek, Director Charlie Eastham. To my left, Vice President Ruthina Malone, Directors J.P. Clausen and Jane Finch, and at the end, Board Secretary Kim Colvin. Thank you, everyone, for your time joining us tonight. First up is our community comment, and we can get right into it. And the first one up we have is Joan Vandenberg.
Okay.
Welcome back, Joan.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Is this all right? Okay, good. Well, thanks for your time this evening. I'm Joan Vandenberg, as you know, and I'm back from retirement to speak to an issue of equity in after-school and summer programs. It's been a goal of our district and of our community education program to make after-school and summer programming more accessible to our families with limited resources. Many of our after-school programs were established by parents as fee-based programs with no transportation, and as you can imagine, that model excluded many families. The district's community education program set goals for out-of-school time both to address the issue of access and to support opportunities for additional learning. The largest source of funding to accomplish these goals was the federal 21st Century Schools program, and over the past 22 years, the district brought in several $1 million in federal funding, serving elementary schools with the highest rates of poverty. The University of Iowa College of Education Center for Assessment has completed the evaluation annually, and the data consistently has shown increases in math and reading scores and positive survey results from teachers, students, and parents alike. Sadly, the federal funding formula has changed. As the 5-year federal grants expire, the district is no longer applying for renewals. And so this means as of fiscal year 23, Hills no longer has a federal grant, and parents are here tonight as they're concerned about what will happen. I encourage parents to bring their concerns to the board. Once I learned from one of them that transportation wasn't offered this summer for their child. So I know from my previous work in the district that community education dollars or ESSER money can be used to support busing, and I feel like that should be a priority. Also, the immigrant parents that I visited with feel like they're out of the loop. And we need better structures for them to have a voice. And the residents of Regency and Cole would like to invite board members and or administrators to visit them in their neighborhoods to answer questions they have about the many district issues that are under consideration coming up here shortly, and have an opportunity to provide their input. I'm also here to advocate that substantial community ed dollars continue to be allocated to Hills this year, and in future years to Twain, Alexander, and Kirkwood once the grant expires, allowing this successful program to continue. And finally, the board-appointed members on our Community Ed District Advisory Committee, you kind of remember us having a roster for that. I really would like to encourage that those community members on that committee have meaningful input to the board on important decisions such as this. So I applaud the parents who have come here tonight. They're leaders in their communities, and they would like to, I'd like to respectfully request that they have more than 3 minutes for their speaking since they have an interpreter. So otherwise that may not give them much time. Anyway, so thank you so much. Thanks for your continued service, and it's nice to see you all.
Thank you. All right, first up we have Angela Chaparro.
Yeah, she's the interpreter, so I'll go grab them.
All right.
So who's after Angela?
Marcela Hurtado.
Marcella? That's okay.
You interpret me? Okay. Thank you. My name is Marcela Hurtado. I have 2 children. In this district, I'm worried because this program is a help for the children, but sometimes for the parents, because the parents stay, oh, it's okay, my children is taken in the school, no problem. I'm working very, very good because no need nothing. I'm worried for this program. Please, mantengan este programa.
Keep the program.
Keep the program because it's very important for the families, for the children and for the parents. Thank you.
You did great.
Thank you, Marcelo.
All right, we also have Carmen Urias.
Carmen?
Pues buenas tardes a todos
Buenas tardes to everybody. Good afternoon.
y pues igual que mi compañera dijo que pues estamos muy interesados en apoyar que pues nos apoyen en esa necesidad.
The same thing my friend said. We're very interested in you continue giving us the support with the need that we have.
Porque pues los niños sabemos que están seguros en el Before y After School programa
We know our children are very safe when they go to the before and after school program.
y pues la mayoría de padres hispanos pues nosotros más que todo ocupamos trabajar y que los niños estén ocupados también y aprendiendo.
For us as a parents, as Hispanic parents, we have to work to be able to be with our kids, and having them at the before and after school program give us an opportunity to know that they're busy, that they're occupied, and then they're taken care of.
Y gracias por hacernos parte de opinar aquí con ustedes.
Thank you for letting us be part of this and be able to express our opinion.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Gracias.
All right, we just got a new one, and I apologize, I can't quite read, is it Anna? Or? No, you just walked in and now you have to walk right up to the microphone.
Ok, yo vengo aquí porque por medio del programa de After School Program yo me he beneficiado mucho con mis hijos. ¿Por qué? Porque los niños en ese programa han aprendido, o les han enseñado más a leer, les han ayudado cuando no entienden alguna tarea. Mis niños son felices en ese programa.
I'm coming today because my kids in the after school program, they have benefits so much. When they're there, they're able to do their work. I'm better also because they're able to get their work done, because they have excel in their reading, because they've been working with them at the after school program.
Y también porque nosotros como padres trabajamos y a veces no podemos salir temprano del trabajo y tenemos tiempo para poder estar en casa cuando los niños van llegando.
This program also is a benefit for us because we do have to work, and then being the program available for us, we know when we're able to get home, and the kids are also getting home by the time they were there, so we are available for them and ready to be with them.
Y también porque por lo menos en la escuela los niños están ocupados y no están en casa en la tablet, en la tele o en el teléfono. Hay muchos niños que nosotros como padres, con tal de que los niños estén tranquilos, los dejamos en casa haciendo lo que ellos quieran.
The other benefit it is, instead of our children to be at home on their phones, on their computer, on their tablets, there are their after school programs. And I have to be honest, sometimes we don't have anything else to do, we're busy. It's much easier to provide a phone, a tablet, a computer for them to do something.
Y yo sé que en la escuela los maestros, las personas que están con ellos los tienen trabajando, haciendo algo de provecho.
And I know the people that are with them, the teachers, whoever is helping, are helping us, keeping them busy, doing something that is good for them.
En todos esos aspectos yo me he beneficiado y yo sé que me voy a seguir beneficiando porque tengo una niña que va también para esa escuela.
In all the aspects that I just mentioned to you, I know I am benefit as a parent, but also I'm going to continue receiving that benefit if possible because I have a little one that is coming into the school system now.
Si llegaran a quitar ese programa, nos afectaría demasiado a todos, no nomás como padres, sino a los alumnos también.
Taking away the program is something that is going to affect to all of us, not just the kids, but also to the parents.
Es todo. Gracias.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you all. That is all we have.
Sean, if I just may say really quickly, solo quiero decir gracias por venir a la reunión y por la situación del idioma, pues no sé si ustedes saben que para nosotros no podemos responder por las normas de la reunión, pero solo quería decir gracias mucho para venir. I just said thank you for coming because of the language difficulty. I just wanted to make sure they also knew that we don't get to respond. That's all I said.
And I think we can take this up when we get to agenda setting and have some discussion about how we might like to proceed. Maybe if that could be translated to.
Say it again, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was saying that we can, we will be able to have some discussion when we get to the agenda setting part of the agenda, which unfortunately is at the end of the meeting. And and we can't make decisions tonight. We'd have to have it, do that at a meeting in the future.
Tampoco pueden tomar decisiones hoy, pero es algo con lo que ellos pueden trabajar más adelante y poder
Pues yo pienso que lo que más nos gustó es que ellos escuchen el impacto que nos va a dar a nosotros como latinos que no tenemos o no tenemos acceso a muchos beneficios escolares.
I just want to say thank you that you give us the opportunity to be able to tell you what the impact will be for us as a Latino parents, not having this and not having access to lots of resources in the community. So this is big for us.
All right, thank you all. Thank you to my colleagues for providing clarity. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on into our agenda. And first up is approval of tonight's agenda. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open.
I'm going to be yay vote. Still getting logged in.
Awesome. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you. So next up is our consent. Did any directors want to discuss any questions they had as they were reviewing the bills this time around? All right, so are there items that directors would like to pull?
Yes, President Eystone, can I pull Appendix 9, number 13?
Yep.
I'd like to pull item 8.
All right. Anything else?
And President, I'd like to pull number 7.
All right. So we have 7, 8, and 13,
I'm sorry, can I also pull number 10?
and 10. All right, going once. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent minus items 7, 8, 10, and 13.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you. We'll take them in numerical order, so we'll start with number 7, the dial data use agreement. Charlie?
And I think Chase has some things he wants to bring to us.
Sure, good evening. Thank you, Charlie. We're very excited about the Dial partnership, and this is one of the early stages of that. Tonight we're just asking the board to approve a limited data sharing with the organization so that we can start to put this platform together. The Dial platform is going to allow us to monitor disparities in students' sense of belonging, disciplinary referrals, and absenteeism, and so it meets some of the goals that we've talked about as a board and a leadership team. Adam Kurth has taken the lead on this along with our new directors of elementary and secondary. Eliza's not here tonight, but Lucas Patacek, our new director for secondary schools. This is Luke's first meeting with us, is here, and I'm going to turn it over to him to make a couple of comments on this piece as well.
All right, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm in the beginning stages of learning about the program itself. We had met yesterday to talk through the original, one of the 3 junior highs that will be participating in this original pilot project this coming year, which would be Southeast Junior High. Looking through to see with those 3 indicators that Mr. Ramey had mentioned there, as far as how that will go about being used. With the program, with the data that's being shared, it will then send triggers to the team from that particular school, which will then be able to act depending upon certain indicators that each building has indicated as what they want to examine, looking at certain subgroups within their population. So mentioning, looking at how this will include student behavior as well as absenteeism and the sense of belonging. The building leaders will use all those pieces of data to help plan for individual students and subgroups.
Thanks, Lucas. So we think that, we know this will be a great tool for us moving forward, but in order for us to be able to show you all how it's going to work, we want to use our own data, and this allows us to start building that out. And so this really is just a stepping stone down that path. Once we get this in place and Adam's team starts working with our outside partner, we'll be able to come back to you, whether it's at a board session, a work session, or a different setting, to show the capabilities and how we believe this is going to support our students and some of our goals around DEI and our strategic plan.
Chase, thanks very much, and Adam too. I'm sorry, Lucas. I'm sorry, Lucas. Thanks very much for your information. We've had some comments recently from community members about the use of ratios to comparison of ratios as we make decisions as we look at our data. Will this project use other types of statistical analysis other than racial comparisons to get as much from the data as is there?
At this time, I believe it's only those 3 indicators is what we're going to be looking for. Again, I'm in the early stages, so I can certainly ensure we do have another meeting scheduled for Thursday with more team members, both here from the district as well as the organization we're working with. So I can certainly get back to you to ensure exact data that is going to be pulled.
Okay, the data itself is fine, but then I'm also interested in how we analyze the data.
Sure. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by ratios.
So the comments that I've received, and I guess I'm going to make the assumption that everybody else has received, is that we're not doing real statistical analysis on the data, but using more of an eyeball test and not really looking at how things are related necessarily, or making assumptions of how they're related. And that's kind of the vein of the comments that we received. So I think the question is this going to help us do more statistical analysis, or just have a different way to house our data? You know what I mean?
Sure, the former. It's going to help us to do a better analysis. It's going to help us look at trends and where we see certain spikes or inconsistencies in our data around sense of belonging, disciplinary referrals, and then allow us to take a second level, a deeper dive, and then to pull back kind of that surface to get a better picture of where we need to spend our time. And so yes, it will help us do that. I don't know if I'd refer to it necessarily as ratios or what the terminology would be, but it will allow us not to just use that eyeball test, Sean. I think that's a good way to put it, but actually to look at our data, look at our different student groups or subpopulations that are being impacted, and then be able to take that and look at that at a deeper lens of how we, again, increase that sense of belonging and support our students.
Sean, I would just add that I'm aware of the particular comments and concerns that parent has brought forward. I've met with that parent individually myself. I was able to, one of the board members looped me into that email and was able to respond that we are taking, her concerns to heart, to make sure that as we're reporting out, we are doing it as consistently as possible across subgroups. She also raised the concern about maybe language that we were using around disproportionality and how we need to be careful with that. When she and I met, we talked about various statistical algorithms that are being pulled. So as we get into that, we're super cognizant of her concerns, as well as what those reports need to look like come November, as well as what our data analysis needs to look like moving forward. I'm working with Adam and the tech team on that as we move through HRS. So.
I appreciate that context, and as someone who does data analysis all day myself, I get the concerns. I also know that there are times when an eyeball test tells you everything you need to know, right? I don't discount that as a thing that is meaningful, right? I mean, I can look at the disproportionality in discipline on our black and brown students, and I can see that there's disproportionality there. I don't need to do an analysis to see if it's an outlier. Now, I could do a more statistical analysis and look at the intersectionality of race and poverty and, I don't know, where you live and all these other things, yes. And I think that's where we can really start to dig in and affect the problem. But yeah, an eyeball test in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It gives you an indication of where maybe you need to look a little further as you start to dig deeper in the data.
That's the other thing that I did add to that parent that via that email, which was, we just want to be as super transparent as possible, provide the subgroups as consistently as we can through those reports, but essentially point out, what we see as the areas of strengths and weaknesses, and that's what's important, is that we're being transparent and we know that we're looking for areas to improve upon. So thank you for that.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I also appreciate the fact that when some of those charts that we've been, have been seeing in the emails and whatnot, when we're presented with that data, we're also presented with context from the team, right? Explaining kind of, this is why these charts look like this, or this is what we've gleaned out of this information and so on. And just having the chart without the context is, it's a bit limiting there. So I appreciate getting that when we're getting those reports, having that context come along.
And I agree with Sean. I think we should be very clear as a board, if we're in agreement, is that the way we've been looking at group differences using proportionality has, I think, led us to conclude correctly, statistically, that there are differences between groups. We are not wasting our time by pursuing assumptions of differences that don't actually exist in the statistical world. I also want to be complete in looking at this style initiative, and note that it does it looks at student groups' sense of belonging, as well as disciplinary referrals and absenteeism. And we have a lot of conversation that sense of belonging, connection with teachers and other staff members is absolutely vital to how well students do academically. So I'm very happy to see that this variable also as part of this approach.
I do have a question on that. How do you measure that sense of belonging?
Absolutely. So the panorama survey that students take a couple different times throughout the year. We also, with HRS, starting this particular school year, looking particular at levels 1.1 and 1.2, and buildings creating their own surveys as well as surveys that are provided to us through Marzana Research. So those are a couple of different components. Some buildings have been doing that already, just on their own, through their own building surveys that they use towards our school improvement plans.
Great, thanks. Also, as somebody who watched 2 of our board meetings online, I'll just remind everybody, it's really important to speak into the mic. It's not just so the people in the room can hear you at all. It's not even a little bit about the people in the room. It's so the people online, because when you don't, you're watching it online and you're totally lost. You really lose it. It's just the sound in this room is terrible. Like, the acoustics are awful. And so these things this is our accommodation for folks who can't get here in person, and then obviously anybody who needs the accommodation of closed captioning and that sort of thing. So I'll just remind everybody, gentle reminder.
That's a good reminder. You practically have to eat these things to have it pick up on you. Any other questions on this item or anything else the team wanted to share on it since we've got it pulled?
I think we're good if you're good.
All right, then I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Dial Data Use Agreement.
Second.
Any further conversation? All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you. Next up, item 8. Jane, you pulled this one.
Thank you, President Eystone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just
Can
fine.
everyone hear me? Wait, there, you cut my mic off, okay. All right, so yeah, item 8, the ACT hardware invoice. So I had a conversation with Chase today about this. I don't know, do you want to lead off, or do you, how would you like to proceed?
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I guess I just feel compelled to call out the elephant in the room on this one. You know, I'm not an IT expert, but I have some acquaintances who are, and I reached out to them and looked over this invoice, and these prices are indeed very competitive. In fact, they're very good. Even in the used market, these are very good prices. I'm not arguing that. My concern is that it just seems to me that when we're purchasing a $9 million building, that the primary purpose of which is to house our online program, that we should take the time and do our due diligence and use forethought and make sure that we are including the IT infrastructure in that purchase agreement. And I know there's some people in the community who have the same concerns, and so I wanted to bring that to the table tonight to discuss. You know, we've talked about the importance of public trust recently, and this is another area where we lose that trust. And so I guess, you know, I just want to impress upon the administration the importance of being good stewards of tax dollars, and the importance of taking the time needed to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row, as I said earlier with Chase, before we sign off on $9 million agreements, because the optics of a couple weeks later having to spend $200,000 more for IT equipment, I worry that this is something that we will lose further trust. And I understand that the price of this equipment is good, and that we need this equipment. However, I don't know how else to convey the idea that I think we can do better. I know we can do better, and I want us to do better in the future, other than with my vote. I think that's all I have to say.
Sure. And we did have a good conversation this afternoon, and I appreciate that feedback, Jane. And you're right, we do need to do our due diligence and put in the time and effort before we bring things to the board. And as we discussed, this equipment obviously has value to ACT, and at the time, we weren't aware that it was something that they were willing to part with. If we had that ability then, we believe they would have charged us for it then, just as they are now. The other pieces that go along with that, as we are trying to get the online program up and running at that building, purchasing this equipment from ACT, as you mentioned, is at a good purchase price. It also keeps us on pace to open the online program on time before the school year starts. The other part of this that makes it enticing to the district is that it's compatible with the equipment that we already have. And so that we could use it in other facilities across the district. I know those aren't exactly to the point that you're making, and so I'm not trying to sidestep what you shared. I heard that, and I agree with you that we do need to be doing our due diligence on these pieces. And I won't get too much into any of the negotiations pieces, because we know that's outside of the scope. But we will continue to bring information to the district as timely as possible so that you all feel like you have the information you need to make a vote based on the actual data and information you have in front of you, not necessarily the timing in which that we brought that to you. And so I appreciate you taking the time to share that with me today. But we do think and continue to think this is in the best interest of the district to make this purchase.
Thank you, Chase. I do, you know, I just wondered, I mean, did you think to ask, actually, if they were willing to part with this?
Well, I'm not gonna, I don't think it's appropriate to go into kind of the negotiation pieces here in public session.
Okay, fair enough, that's
And
fine.
some of those pieces. I mean, we've had a tremendous amount of conversations, and what I can say is that part of the agreement states that ACT was to provide us a itemized list of things that they were willing to leave for the district. The IT equipment was not on there. And so we know, again, that it had that value. And so I can kind of share with you things that were in the agreement, but beyond that piece, I don't want to go outside of where I think we should be for that conversation.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'll just add, my first reaction was that I had a different thought process around it than Director Finch, and then I realized that that's probably why having more transparency is important, because different people are making different assumptions, right? Because I assumed that we were going to have to buy IT equipment to outfit the building, right? But that was me and how I saw it, right? So that's my first reaction, was like, well, of course we would. Why would you not think that? And now I realize that I think that's kind of the piece you're getting at, is that, you know, not everybody's going to necessarily think about that. And as we, you know, bring it forward, it's like, and here's some of the other things we need to think about, you know, moving forward. So very valid point. I appreciate that. Any other comments on that item?
Am I correct in reading this invoice cost as being $183,255? Is that the cost, total cost of this equipment?
Yes. Yes.
And as I understand it, there seems to be agreement that the cost that the ACT is proposing for the district to pay is a reasonable cost for the equipment that's under consideration.
Yes. Yes. And we looked at compared to new and compared to even equipment that was used, and looked at the age of the equipment. And Jane and I talked about that, and that we do think this is a reasonable price point for these pieces of equipment.
And everyone's in agreement that the building will need these switches in order for the people in the building to have access to the network resources they need.
Yes, that's correct. If we don't buy them from ACT, we'll have to go out on the market and buy them somewhere else.
Well, okay, then, so I'm frankly just having a difficult time understanding why this is a significant issue for us to look at.
I think that Jane's point was not about whether it was the right price. That wasn't what she was just saying to us.
Sure.
She's talking about how when we bought the building, some of us would have assumed, I mean, and as Sean just pointed out, we all just make different assumptions on it, that this would have been part of the package. I don't know anything about IT, and so when we walked through the building, we talked about how great the IT was. I thought that meant we had the IT. That's all. We just didn't know. And so we want to know more before it comes up. And it sounds like Jane did, and you had a good conversation about it. That's what we need to have.
Yeah, my point is not about the price or the need. I assumed the IT was coming with the building because on the walkthrough in May, I was with the IT guys, and they were looking it over and nodding and saying, yes, this is going to work. So it was my assumption that the IT was going to come with the building. And my point is when we have, when we're making a deal, when we're negotiating. I just want to make sure that in the future, I know we can't go back in time, but in the future that we take the time and we do our needed due diligence, and that we wrap it all up in one deal, because this doesn't appear neat. This appears a little haphazard, and the optics for the community is not good. It would be better if it had all been in one transaction, in my opinion. And so what I am saying is, it is my wish that in the future we do better. It is okay to wish that the district does better.
You know, for sure,
Well,
right.
and-
You're certainly correct.
And Jane, like I said, I mean, I really do appreciate that feedback. We're going to celebrate, well, I celebrate here in a little bit, some of the projects we've done in ops this year, and one of them is FMP 2.0. And so we're right at the beginning of FMP 2.0, and so that transparency and that district trust is important, and we always need to be willing to improve our processes and make sure that we maintain that. We want to continue that support that we've enjoyed for the last decade. And so I think this is a good conversation to have, and we need to make sure that we bring you the information that you need so that we can all be having the same conversation with the community. And I agree, we can always be striving to do better.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the ACT network hardware invoice.
Second?
Any further comments? All right, Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you. Next item is item 10. Ruthina, I think you pulled that one.
Yes, I did. Thank you, President Eistone. I just pulled it only for transparency's sake, because I posed some questions to our team, and I'm assuming Director Reedy actually provided those answers. And I just want to say thank you. I had questions on, since this is a contract for a school out of state, whether or not we looked at, with the IEP team, if services could be provided on a similar scale in state, and whether or not, well, who all was involved in making the decision, and how this works, since this is for another school. And I just want to thank you that you explained that we will remain, because Iowa law, part of the IEP team in making sure that our student progress as needed. So that was all the reason why I pulled it. So I don't know if anybody else had any questions or concerns, but I just wanted to say thank you for that.
And if I may, Ruthina, I just wanted to say we really appreciated your questions. I think they were well spoken, and just continue to have a conversation around how we're thinking about it as we develop these services, and making sure we're continuing to come back to those conversations regardless of where those services occur. So I appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you, no problem. I was joking with Director Finch before the meeting started that this is one job that being nosy comes in handy. So I am glad to provide those services of mine.
Since we have it open, you mentioned the email. Could you explain how we recoup some of this funding? In the email, you'd explained how we can get some of this funding back. Can you explain that?
Les is gone.
Yeah, JP, you're kind of pulling on my area of weakness here. I leaned into Les for that. Les is out today, but we work together. So part of why it's important we maintain an IEP in Iowa is not only so we have those services documented in our Iowa IEP, but then we are counting that student in our state system. And then when a student exceeds what we would call like that typical ratio of spending, and there's a special term Les will call it that I don't know.
So let me help. Is this the SBRC?
It's an extension
School
of
Budget
that,
Review
yes.
Committee?
Yes,
Okay.
it's an extension of that, yes. So then, while it's not all the costs, we recoup some, and we'll take what we can get. So, yes.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, JP.
Yeah.
Way to put her on the spot.
I know clearly Ruthina had the better question.
All right, any other questions, directors? All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve Perkins School for the Blind agreement.
Second?
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you. And the last item pulled is our Appendix 9, and I think we're going to learn a little bit about Southeast.
Yes, thank you, Sean and Rathina. So I appreciate you giving us the opportunity. 2 weeks ago, we showed you the designs for Northwest and North Central, and tonight, as Sean just mentioned, Dwayne is going to walk us through the proposals for Southeast Junior High.
Thank you, Jason, President Einstone. And tonight we're going to present Southeast Junior High Elementary Middle School Edition. And I'll start by saying that this has been a true challenge. And the site is very difficult. Being able to keep the circulation going through the building was a challenge. And we needed to repurpose some of the rooms, but I'll let the architect walk you through that. But I wanted to tell you it was a challenge, and that Miss Houston here, Sarah, first name, who's with Farnsworth Architects, was also involved with Coralville Central, Lincoln, and Schemic, and the original Southeast project that we just finished. So she's pretty familiar with the building and all the ins and outs and all the tunnels, and you've been through them all. And so she's well-versed on the project. And also to tell you that Michelle Cook couldn't be here tonight and expressed her apologies for not being here. So I'll try and fill in for her best I can. And I'll let Sarah jump in here. She can take you through it, and maybe we need to blow it up just a little bit so you can see it.
Let's see if I can do this.
There you go.
Okay.
You gotta bring the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, not that. We'll just do this. I'll zoom in. The next slide is a little zoomed in. So here's the overall. This part is our first floor plan, and all the areas that are colored are either renovation or new building. So it impacts a fair portion of the building. First off, we were tasked with a classroom addition to bring the 6th grade to this building. And so that loosely was about 24 classrooms. And so that's what this 2 stories, first floor and then second floor above it, pods of classrooms. We met with all the principals of the middle schools, and then I met again a couple times with Michelle specifically for this school. And so this is what we decided on based on their kind of curriculum and education and how they wanted to do the 6th grade. So the dark blue is classrooms. There's some kind of shared spaces in there. And then another thing that this particular school was short of from the previous project we did was that they were lacking in music. The music department was undersized, and especially bringing in a lot more students would continue to be undersized. So this purple here is actually the existing music. We're converting that into the industrial arts area because industrial arts is part of this middle school classroom addition over here. And then the red areas are now the music. And all of that red area, this orange box and some of this area here is all new addition. And then there's a new connection, as Dwayne was talking about. This school just starts to get bigger, so we need to make it walkable. You need to be able to get there before the next bell rings. So if I go on to the next page, this is kind of a zoomed in of the classroom addition. So you can see the science rooms are in the corners. They're the larger rooms. And I gave some bullet statistics. On each floor is 7 new kind of typical standard classrooms that are about 820 square feet. And then each floor has 3 science rooms. 2 for each of the new pods per floor, and then because we're converting some of the existing science rooms into art rooms, which works really well because they already have sinks, they already have more storage, and there's even a storage room between the 2 rooms. So that's going to be the new art area, but we needed to relocate those science rooms. So we do have a total of 6 new science rooms over here. Stairway, elevator to keep it accessible, new bathrooms, because that always comes with any square footage you add. A teacher's lounge is actually adjacent to the cafeteria and kitchen area. A couple new offices because we're going to be adding administration with the number of students being brought over. So you can see the list of items being included in this classroom addition. And then continuing on to the music addition, again, as I said, the purple rooms are existing spaces that we're repurposing to industrial tech with the integrated arts, the classroom, and then the wood shop. And then the red is all the music with band, orchestra, practice rooms, ensemble rooms in between, choir, a general music class. And then due to the number of students, they would also need a third space for PE. There's the big gym, there's the Munson Historic Gym, but they needed a third space. And the existing wrestling room, kind of multi-purpose room, just wasn't the right shape, wasn't the right size. So we added an additional fitness room, and also to make this connector, this takes out one of the old locker rooms, which I don't think anyone's really sad that that's going away if you've ever been in those locker rooms. So we are building new locker rooms, and those are adjacent to the fields that are along the east side of the building with a new kind of athletic entrance. So that's the general scope of this project. And the site, you can see, as Dwayne was saying, it kind of sits in this angle. This is all athletic fields that we are not touching. This is where the current parking lot is. And so we are moving it further, taking up this kind of upper northwest corner for additional parking, extending some of the south parking lot, and then bringing this, what was the fire lane, we're connecting that and expanding the front parking lot, which makes just the circulation for buses, pedestrians, cars, all of it flow better around the site. And then just some pretty pictures to let you know, we're trying to stay similar to the aesthetic of the school as a whole, not just make some crazy thing, but we are going to have a few moments that are interesting. But again, this is a classroom addition. It's not a new front entrance, so that's why it looks similar. We know how to build this because we have built it. We did a science room addition on the back side, the previous addition. Yes. Oh, and yes, and we're having some clear stories up above. This kind of continues in plan. It continues that strange diagonal that cuts across the site, that the media center is that same diagonal. So that'll let natural light into that center, open corridor, collaborative space in the center of the building. Every classroom that's a dedicated classroom has natural light to it. That's very key in education. There's a few kind of flex, smaller rooms that are interior, but they are not going to be a classroom that any student is in all day. Again, the kind of the athletic music entrance over here out on the fields. These are still early. We're still developing some of the exterior expression, but you can see how it just kind of blends in with the existing building. We're not trying to be over the top. Some images, the interior, you can see some of the daylight from the clear story on the second floor. This is kind of the collaborative space in the middle. Typical classroom, similar arrangement as all the existing classrooms. The lower level, same kind of thing, but a slightly larger collaborative space. And then lastly, a music room that has daylight and is large enough to accommodate all the students that want to be a part of the music program.
So take them back to the overall floor plan and show them that kitchen expansion.
Oh, yes.
That was going to be my question. I'd like to know more about the kitchen.
So you're really-
Yeah.
So this is a project that's going on right now.
Yes, under construction right now. This rectangle right here is kind of the existing cafeteria. So we're expanding. We took out the stage over here to provide more seating. We added this cafeteria expansion piece out here for additional seating, and it moves the corridor to get from one side to the other further north, more in the center of the building, instead of having to walk all the way down here. This is the existing kitchen. It expands into that corridor, as well as adds new along the south end, a freezer, cooler, and dry storage. So it pretty much doubles the size of the kitchen and then expands the potential cafeteria seating by at least a third to 40%. And based on what we had already done, we do not need to expand those any further to accommodate the sixth graders coming in.
Okay, so can I ask a question? Is it time for that? Okay, so these are great. I'm really excited about it. The seating in the cafeteria has been a real challenge. So that's so important. I like what I'm hearing. I hope it's enough. It sounds like it's going to be. The music room, the music spaces were not adequate, and I'm very excited about that too. These aren't like shiny things we're doing. These are necessary things that had to happen at Southeast. The other big one you mentioned is the traffic flow or whatever. You don't have to explain it to me if it's complicated. I just want to know, is it going to be a lot better than it currently is? Because any of us that have had kids at Southeast, I consider it a small miracle that I haven't hit a kid yet. And I'm careful.
Sarah, can you pull that back
So
up?
it is really, really not a good system as it currently is. So if there's anything we can do to improve it, everyone would benefit from that.
So the stacking plan is if you, when you pull off First Avenue, you drive around the back of the school, and then you're gonna drive up the old fire lane to the front. If you can see right there, that's where we want the cars stacked.
That's all new, it doesn't exist now.
What do you mean stacked?
Okay, you know the line to wait? So we
Well,
want people
okay.
to wait all around back. That's what
Where is-
Michelle's trying to do.
Where do you think the queue is?
Well, the queue will be around back.
Places right now.
I was gonna say, I drive every day to take the kids, and,
No, but when this is done, Michelle's gonna try to get people to queue around back to get them off of Bradford.
okay.
Right now, you have people in the front competing with buses.
Yeah, there's literally no place
Yes.
to queue
People on the
right
side,
now.
People in the back, they're all over the place.
Yeah, there are, they are.
But the addition of that road around the campus
Uh-huh.
will make that flow.
Okay.
Work a lot
And so when they exit the campus, when we pick up our kids and exit the
That
campus
street right to the north.
On Bradford.
on Bradford, so that now we're not all trying to exit, that's north, on the west entrance
Yeah.
where we all were before.
So the west end will be blocked off for it's only 2 buses, I believe, that go around back, or 3, the sped buses. That'll be, only the buses can go out that lane.
Okay, yeah.
Right now, that exit from that parking lot doesn't really line up with any of those streets to the north. This new exit will. So actually, traffic will be able to ride across Bradford and go straight north if they want to without going back to First Street.
And you're further away from the stoplight is what we're trying to get you to.
That's really important, and also just Bradford is really hard to cross, so it will be hard still.
So-
I mean, I'm just thinking that, so you're thinking the queue, last question, I'm sorry, but it has been a real issue. If you had kids at Southeast, it's really frustrating in a safety way. So where will the cars line up?
Along this fire lane, if you follow the mouse that comes around here,
Huh?
all along here.
And where do the kids, and then the principal will help us understand
Yes.
how the kids will be released and everything. Okay, the more information we get about that, the better. So thanks.
We'll share that with Michelle.
She knows. It's not a criticism, it's a hope to make it better, and it sounds like you are focusing on it.
I would say between the physical plant,
Michelle and the architects and our civil engineer, they've thought this through quite a bit.
Great, thank you.
other questions?
I'll just have to chime in. That was my that was going to be my same question about the queue for parent drop-up, because Director Hyatt Pilcher is correct. Pilcher Hyatt.
Whatever,
Gotcha,
it's fine.
okay. It's correct. I mean, it was a nightmare. Our kid's been gone for 6 years now, but yeah, as you were presenting, that was one of my first thoughts. But I also would like to add that I'm very excited to see so much natural light in the building. Being able to work in a building with a lot of natural light, it does make a huge difference on not only the adults in the building, but also the students. So I love seeing those humongous windows. Thank you.
I agree with that. For the first time in like 20 years, I have an office with a window, and I have a lot better attitude most of the time. Now, I do have a question on, it's on the second slide that you can, it's the zoomed in of the, yeah, that one. I think it's on the first floor part. It looks like there's, right above where the restrooms are, there's a single stall restroom, a gender neutral restroom. Is that new?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is new. That's either staff, all gender, however it wants to be labeled. Because currently, the only other one like this is up by the office, or there's one by the locker rooms that we put in the last project. So with adding this many students and this much square footage, we wanted to add another one over on this side of the building as well.
Awesome. I really appreciate that, and I would look for any opportunity we can to do more, right? I mean, everyone's got to go to the bathroom, so we can put them anywhere we can. I think it's great, so I appreciate the addition there.
I think that, and again, I'd like to say that the creative part of this was being able to move the industrial tech area
And the art room out of that area so that we could access that corridor with classrooms and make it more useful than it is now.
You may remember when we did the library addition, we actually removed part of that corridor so we could drive bulldozers through there. You know, I mean, we then had to rebuild it. But if you've been there, you saw it. But just taking those classrooms and building new music rooms was a really good stroke for this project. The other thing is, I've been getting a lot of comments from staff
At Southeast, well, when is what gonna be done? Well, in fact,
the music room additions need to be done first so that we can move the industrial tech, so we can tear it down and build the classrooms. So that's how that project's gonna go. Any other questions? Thanks, Sarah. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now I got to remember that we pulled an item from. I would entertain a motion on Appendix 9.
I move that we approve Appendix 9.
Second?
Any further conversation? All right, Kim?
I'm a yay. I don't know where mine went.
Director Pilcher-Hayek. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thanks, Kim. Next up, we have a couple of public hearings, and first up is Weber Elementary front entrance.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the 2022 Weber Elementary front entrance addition project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on July 12, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on July 13, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. August 3, 2022 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on July 13, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public?
All right, we can close that public hearing and open up the second one for Schemic Elementary Lunchroom.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the 2022 Schemic Elementary Lunchroom Common Addition project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on July 12, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on July 13, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. August 11, 2022 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on July 13, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public?
All right, we can close our public hearings. Next up, policy review. We brought this for the first time at the last meeting, and you'll see it, because this is our second reading, you'll see it again down in our action items, but there's some quick changes, mostly due to some changes at the state level on open enrollment and an extra requirement at graduation, and one other on student health services. So I would open it up if there were any questions or comments. Covered it pretty good last time. All right. Looks good. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to our presentations and our annual operations report. And Chase, are you starting us off?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for giving us the time this evening. I mentioned a celebration earlier, and I really do look at this as a celebration of the work that we've done with the ops side of the house over the last year. First, I'd like to share my appreciation of the board with the formation of the ops committee. I think that's been a really great addition that's helped us kind of guide this work and has also given us a platform to share a lot of what we're doing on the ops side with the board over the course of the year. So we don't need to wait for an annual report to do that. It's provided that open conversation, and I think has been very helpful. You do have the narrative that highlights and provides detail of a lot of the work that our operations departments have done over the course of this year. So tonight, I'm going to be brief, and I'm just going to highlight 4 things I think have been really big endeavors for our ops team this year, but more importantly, I think they represent work that, while targeted for operations, reflects contributions from everyone on our leadership team, both on the ops side and also the teaching and learning side. We'll see all of our departments, I won't call them out, but represented across these various projects. And just for those that don't know much about our ops team, as we get started, we do cover 9 departments and offices and represent over 330 employees across the district that support the day-to-day teaching and learning that goes on. Traditionally, I tell the team, look, the less they hear from us, the better. Our folks do a lot of their work behind the scenes because we really truly do want our work in the district to be a focus on teaching and learning. But as I said, tonight's an opportunity to pause and celebrate some of the great things that we are doing on the ops side of the house. And the first up is FMP 2.0. If 2022-23 is going to be all about high reliability schools, which it should be, I think we'd say that last year was a lot about FMP 2.0 and what we were doing. This time last year, we sat here and talked about some of that great community engagement that was taking place across our district, which concluded in a tremendous vote of support by our community in November to push forward this project. And then we brought forward a tentative plan, or our first plan, to the board for approval in April of this year. And on there, you can see some of the deliverables. And quite honestly, this is just a high-level summary, and so it doesn't do justice to all the work that is taking place. But as we looked at not only completing the promise of FMP 1.0, but then some of the new projects that we wanted to do, and then also work that we set out to do in conjunction with the community. We just saw a great report on the transition of our junior highs to a middle school, which I think is also something that is a tremendous accomplishment from FMP 2.0, and our ability to listen to our community's voice and then reflect what they told us inside this planning. One piece I will highlight on here that is not necessarily outlined as much as some of the others in the actual annual report is the support for the climate action plan. That's been a priority for the board, for the administration, for the district. I mentioned the ops committee earlier. One of the things we plan to do later this fall is to bring actually a standalone report and an update on our climate action plan, tie it into Facilities Master Plan 2.0. But it's just been a while since we've had that conversation. Instead of adding it on to our annual report, I did want to mention that we will be bringing that back to the ops committee here in the fall. And so I can work with Lisa on when we will agenda that so that we can focus in on that. But it is part of the work that we're doing along with our middle school reconfigurations, the building of new elementary schools, continued enhancements to our playgrounds, and a number of other things that we are doing. And then, of course, an 8-year plan, $270 million. And because of the generosity and the extension of Save and Pepple in the fall, a no general obligation bond. And so it's been a tremendous first year for FMP 2.0, a lot of work by a number of departments led by Jeff, Dwayne, and their teams, Leslie as well, and we're looking forward to continuing this work. One of the things that we're really proud of last year that had a lot less fanfare is our implementation of Infinite Campus. Adam's not here tonight. It took the work of his team, the work of our building secretaries, a number of different departments, that this went so seamlessly over the last year. An implementation of this size usually takes much longer than the 7 months that Adam's team implemented this last spring. And this was our first full year of utilizing Infinite Campus as our student information system. And while everything we implement has hiccups, by all counts and measures, this has been a tremendous success and a tremendous upgrade for us. And again, it's one of those things that you use and you know the benefit, but we don't necessarily talk about a lot, and that's how it should be. And that's how we know this is a success, because we haven't had to talk to the district or talk to the community or talk to the board a lot about problems with Infinite Campus. And you see that over 160 training sessions with over 300 hours of training developed and provided to our staff on Infinite Campus, and we continue to do that. And they just didn't do this. There were a number of things that all our departments were doing as we moved this forward, and just one of many projects. One of the pieces that we really enjoy about Infinite Campus is its capability to integrate with a number of our different systems. So we talk about enhancements to safety and security. We talk about enhancements to communication with the public and with our students and with our parents and with our staff. Infinite Campus is really allowing us to do that, whether it's with Qualtrics or Blackboard Connect and the work that Kristen does. This is truly an accomplishment from last year that we probably haven't celebrated enough, but has been a tremendous step forward for our district and a benefit for students, staff, and parents alike. The third one that we'd like to talk about, now we're getting right to my heart here with Grow Our Own, and I never miss an opportunity to talk about this. I will be brief. You all have been generous with our ability to have conversations with you throughout the year about Grow Our Own, but last year truly was a benchmark year. We first started this conversation back in 2019, and due to the pandemic and some other forces, the conversation stalled, and we were able to develop, but we really couldn't get any footwork, and we kind of just took off like a rocket this last year, and so this is definitely one of those pieces that we're very proud about, through the fellowship program, to our support staff to teacher pipeline, and to Educators Rising for our students to teacher paths. We've had a lot of conversation. We will welcome every opportunity that the board has for us to come back and to have these conversations, but we're very excited of where we are. Eric's not here this evening. Carmen and Nick are, who have been very instrumental in this, but we're getting ready to send off our first group of support staff to college. And how cool is that, right? Thanks to the generous donations of the foundation in Green State, that we're really seeing this move forward in a way that we're not just talking about it, but individuals are enrolled in programs that we know are going to be able to come back and support the district in a different way after this work takes place. Our fellows, they're starting the second year of the program, except for 4 of them, who are now administrators in the district. Another success story as we look at how we're growing our own individuals to take on new adventures, new roles inside our organization. So something that we're very proud of, and we're very appreciative of the board's unwavering support of Grow Our Own and seeing our vision for this as we build this, and is something that we think will continue and hope to continue to be a success story for us in the district. And the last program we'd highlight tonight before we open it up for discussion and conversation from the board, our ability to feed kids over the last 2 years. The pandemic hit us hard a number of ways, and food shortages for families and especially students was one of them, and the generosity of the federal government allowing meals to be free, and Allison's just endless work with her team and our building principals and administrators and teams about how we would get meals to kids. We just started looking at things differently, and our numbers continued to increase, and the impact grew more and more. And that number at the bottom of that screen is just amazing to me. Over 2 million meals in a year to kids in our community. And so I think that's just something that we can all be proud of, not only for our students, but as a community, that we were able, during a time where our community needed it, to provide 2.1 million meals to children. And so it's those type of stories and these types of abilities of our district to do these things that I think really make our ops team special. Yes, our business is educating kids, but we all know that there's more to it than just that. And some of these examples center how we're supporting that work. And I love ending with this one, because we really know that if we don't feed our children's mind, they're not going to perform in the classroom. And this epitomizes what we try to do as an ops team in supporting the work that goes on across the district. And so I could talk all night. I told everybody I would keep it short, because I love to talk about the great things that are going on. And it's not perfect. And we're always striving to make it better, but we really do believe that we're doing great work to support what's going on in our classrooms. And so whether it's about these initiatives, whether it's about things you read in the report, or things maybe that we didn't capture that you'd like us to talk more about or bring back in a different session, I'm happy to have that discussion and answer any questions the board might have.
Yeah, thank you, Chase, and to everybody on the team for putting this together because it is a point that we've done some really great things as a district, and we need to celebrate. So I do appreciate that. And I'm happy to see Grow Our Own. I know when Chase came back to the district, that was something that probably annoyed him with all the time, asking questions on, but I'm thrilled to see that it's been a program that we've been able to not only sustain, but make a difference in our numbers regarding teachers, staff, administrators of color, and to diversify that. So that's been great. One of the questions I have is also near and dear to my heart is feeding our kids. Because as you said, if we're not feeding their body, it's hard to feed their minds. And so knowing that coming into this school year, we're not able to provide those free meals anyway. And I don't know if we can talk about this tonight or in the future. I want to make sure that we have a discussion about what can we do as a district and potentially as a community to make sure that our kids are getting fed. I have people right now writing, asking about typical lunchroom debt because they read about that in other communities. How can we as a community ensure that we're not turning a child away? And I know if a child has a balance that's too high, they're not fed. I mean, it's just they're getting the sack lunch as opposed to the hot lunch. But I want to make sure that we can continue this good news with this bottom number. And like I said, it may not be a discussion we can have tonight unless you have some thoughts or something early on in the new school year that we can talk about.
Sure, it's probably a more robust conversation than we want to have this evening, and I didn't want to hide that, but we were being so positive, I didn't want to end with, and by the way, everybody has to pay for meals next year, but you are right, that is one of the challenges that we're going to face, is that we have to go back to pay status. And so Allison and Leslie and I are looking at some of the things that we can do. We've run the numbers, and we can bring those back to the district. I will be honest that it's not feasible from a budget perspective for us to continue that without the subsidies that we had from the federal government. But I think there is an opportunity to have some conversation about what we can potentially do, whether that's in terms of just communication and making sure everybody's aware of what's available, or at looking at some of those other opportunities where we can partner or that folks can help supplement. You mentioned debt. One of the things that we have decided to do that we're working on is that everyone is going to start over at zero. So we are going to wipe away all of the nutrition debt that any of our families had pre-pandemic. We didn't think it was fair, since we went on kind of this hold status for 2 years, to come back and be like, hey, by the way, you owed us $50 2.5 years ago, and now we're going to collect that. And so we are going to write off all that debt. There's some hoops that we have to jump through, but we only think it's fair to our families to come back and to everybody have that clean slate as they start the school year. And so we've started communicating that with families and being able to share that information. But I think a more, as I said, robust conversation on the topic is something we would definitely like to engage in.
And that's totally fine, but you still managed to end on a happy note with the fact that we get to wipe out that debt for families. So thank you.
I think it would be a good idea to have a presentation about it. Some of the things you just said, I don't think I have a full understanding of. So if we could just learn about how that system works, and how, what other resources we can tap into, or whatever that may take. Everyone in this panel and in this room knows that we have to provide that safety net. But there are a lot of members of the community that were scratching their heads about why we needed to provide food to people. So that's something I just want to make really clear to our community, how important it is, and the obstacles that are in front of a lot of people in our community, and how the district is going to do what we can to help them get around it. So I'm glad you brought that up, Director Malone, and I think the more the board can learn and the community can learn about it, the better.
For sure. Other directors with questions on this?
No question. I'll just highlight, since we're on the food thing, really highlight what we do to get more local food into our schools, and the numbers are here, and it's just great. And we've been making, so thanks to Allison and her team and folks for supporting this. Chase, I really appreciate what you said about, not putting this out front and center a lot and not tooting our own horn and making it about teaching and learning. But the truth is, this is the stuff that makes that possible. You know, without this sort of infrastructure and things like Infinite Campus, even Grow Our Own, which is closer to the classroom, right? But all of that is what's driving a lot of these initiatives and allowing our teachers to have those relationships that are gonna enhance the teaching and learning. And it's a lot. I mean, just to point out to the community, it's almost a $300 million budget. That's more than any city, any municipality. It's probably more than the county is what this governing body directs for the students in this school district and their families. And so it's a significant operation, and I just really appreciate not just the work you do, but the way you do it. Chase, and I'll just say for you, when you light up on the things you light up about, it's really inspiring. It's really great to see, and I appreciate that. Yeah, that's it. I would just say when you do come back to that climate change talk, I think our next big area, right, is busing. You know, that's where we're going to have the impact. So looking at now that we see other bodies doing electric buses, what does that look like? And I know that's a big price, probably got a big price tag on it, but just looking at that data. So I'm excited for those conversations in the coming years. Thank you.
I would mention the FMP process, 1.0 and 2.0. The fact that this district is forward-looking, but also acting on our FMPs, that differentiates us from any other district. And if you have family in some of the other big districts, mine's in Cedar Rapids, we are so far ahead. And thanks to our team about it. It's been amazing what was accomplished with FMP 1.0 and what we plan to accomplish with 2.0. It is why our operations, you guys know I love our teachers. It's one of the reasons I think we're the best in the state. But to JP's point, our operations make that happen as well. We are the best because of these systems. You have had good boards that are going to question you on the systems. I think we have an administration that is receptive to our questions, and that's what's going to make this work. We've got a really good recipe for success, and it's thanks to this operations committee. So good job.
Yeah, Chase, I very much appreciate your staff's letting us know about all of these areas. The Grow Your Own program to me has just been brilliant. It was a risky sounding thing 3 or 4 years ago, and not sure it would work, but it does work. I mean, there are people that want to change their professional careers, and you and your staff and other people have made that possible for them, and it's a great benefit to the kids in this district. So, I know in your report on the meals program, you mentioned that some of the possibilities of maintaining meals for all the students who probably need them seems to be impractical or unfeasible. I would just ask that we have a discussion about that, okay?
Yeah, yes, we'll bring you the data, and so that we can have that discussion together about the feasibility. Yeah.
That'd be great. Well, I appreciate that. And again, the food service workers' ability to do meals during the pandemic, fantastic, just awesome. So, if we could award medals, you would get, the food service worker would get the majority, workers would get the majority of them now. So, thanks. I'm looking forward to continuing this. Okay.
Thank you for your presentation, Chase. I also appreciate that you light up certain subjects, and I am particularly pleased with the Grow Our Own program as well. And I just your optimism is very refreshing, and the energy that you bring. I read earlier this week that the past was written by optimists and the future belongs to optimists. And so I thank you for your optimism and for carrying our district through to the future.
All right, everybody's patting you on the back, being the cheerleader, but
Say something mean.
yeah, you put Infinite Campus on here, so I finally have a forum for my one complaint.
Oh, boy. And Adam's not here.
Let's
so.
do this, let's do this.
I do have a complaint about Infinite Campus, and it annoyed me last year, and it annoyed me again this year when I registered again. My address is Broadmoor Drive. Infinite Campus sees the word road in the middle of Broadmoor and abbreviates it with a capital R and a little d. So my address is capital B, capital R, little d, and then more. And I fixed it once, and then it fixed it for me again. That's my complaint. Fix it.
I got Chris Ingalls in the back. We'll have the help desk take
I do
care
have
of that.
one comment.
What a turn.
On a side note, though, because when you register, you're paying your fees and whatnot. The switch to My School Bucks, I am concerned for the secondary PSTOs not going to get anywhere near the money they used to get. Because it used to be this kind of thing where you'd pay your fee, you just click, 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 and everything would go through. Now you have to hunt for whatever thing you're going to pay, and it's all off by itself, and there really isn't any rhyme or reason to how it's ordered on My School Bucks, and it's kind of hard to find things. And so I think there's going to be a dip specifically it's the secondary PSU, well, maybe it's just the high schools. I'm not sure if the junior highs are or not.
It doesn't?
But it's harder to find it there, and it's less likely for people to go out and seek it. So that's something to just keep an eye out for if that is going to be an impact for those groups.
We can monitor that and compare it and then see what we can do.
Well, maybe just to preemptively address it, I think that's a really good point, but we could tell the principals to give information to their PTO presidents and just circulate it that way to nip it in the bud.
Yeah, that'd be good too. But yeah, you and the team are doing a great job.
Well,
I couldn't leave it that way.
Thank you for those comments, and I have the easy job. I just get to sit up here and talk, or I usually sit there, but I just get to talk about it, and the team is tremendous, and they really do make the district go, not just the ops team, but all the directors. And I omitted inadvertently earlier, one of our great partners too in this work is Brady. Brady does a nice job of always giving us a shout out about that collaboration, and it makes all of our work much easier, both on the ops side and on the teaching and learning side, when you have good partners representing your employee groups that truly want to collaborate and help lead this work, and they do a nice job of that as well. And so thank you to Brady and to all of our team for all the work they do every day to make the schools go.
I think we all second that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Chase. Anything else, directors, before we move on? All right, let's move on into our action items. Again, first up was the policy primers that we already have discussed. We'll ask any further comments on it. I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the policy primers.
Second?
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open.
You just take a yay from me.
Thank you, Director Finch. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. And our second action item is looking at selling some bonds again. And I'll let you kick it off.
Yes, so this is our next resolution in a series of steps that we have to take to sell the bonds. We were here in front of you 2 weeks ago, and tonight we're actually asking for a resolution directing the sale of the bonds to start some of the work on FMP 2.0. Suzanne is here to talk to the board a little bit about that and to help answer any questions you might have.
And specifically, we didn't have the term sheet when I came last time, so I wanted to make sure everybody saw that, and I was just going to do a quick review of the terms that you will be approving tonight. The interest rate, 3.34%, maturing June 1st, 2037, 15-year term. These are tax-exempt, non-qualified bonds, semi-annual principal and interest. Let's see, payable from the sales tax, the SAVE fund. Additional bonds test 125, which is the standard terms. I know this is a lot of, I'm just reviewing them. The Your Bond Counsel requested that I specifically call them out, so I'm doing what was asked. Legal fees for the lender, $15,000. There is a note that if for some reason the projects are not tax exempt, that it would be converted to a taxable rate. And then just the annual reporting requirement that the district provide the audit to the lender within 270 days after the fiscal year, which lines up with your annual EMMA reporting that PFM assists with. So I don't know if there's any questions, but very happy to answer any if there are any tonight.
How much do you like that interest rate?
It's better than what we could get in the market. And I was very, very pleased. And, you know, I wanted to do the full 20 to get more money and lock it in now, but we got a better rate by, you know, working with the team and taking the advice of the, with Piper Sandler. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Very pleased. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Comments?
And I'll be
Right.
driving the documents back to Bond Counsel tonight, so.
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we pass the board resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds, appointment of paying agent, wire transfer, and approval of tax exemption certificate and purchase agreements.
Second.
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, that takes us to our agenda setting. We do have a couple things next Tuesday. Let's see, I'm trying to remember which one's first. It looks like P&G is first, to go through a discussion on a cell phone policy, kind of talk through that. And then we will have a closed session following that. And then the following Tuesday, August 9th, we have kind of our regular stuff. We do have another quarterly financial report and some of our discussion items coming back with Superintendent Degner returning. We kind of held off on some of our heavy hitters until he was back, but we have our equity update and another good discussion around Hills, looking at some boundary talk that we kind of brought up previously. And then I think we will look at some of the impacts of the schedule on the FMP 2.0 timelines as things are being decided and things might have to move around. Well, things already are, I think, have to move around. So we have that under an action item if we reset some of that timeline. And I know I had some notes on some other things that we want in future things, a discussion on the nutrition program. I think Chase mentioned a climate action plan update. And I know that Charlie had mentioned kind of a response of some sort, discussion of some sort around some of the comments we had from our community comments. I was trying to, is that specifically around like the BASP at Hills or the 21st century grant? I'm not sure how to phrase it.
That second part about the 21st century grant and the Hills program and some others, Amy, Laura, myself, and some others have been working on that. And so we can, unless you want to comment right now, Amy, we can work on a presentation to come back, whether that's at a meeting or a work session, to provide you some information on where we are, maybe what we see the program looking like as we go forward, and how we'll maintain or as I said, what that will look like as we move forward.
That presentation include sort of the other 21st century schools and the impact to that down the line?
Yeah, so
Okay.
with BASP, of course, we offer that in the 21 buildings. The 21st Century Program is currently in 4 buildings, but like Joan alluded to, it is drying up. So we have it in 4 of our higher FRL buildings. We have used some ESSER dollars this past year to provide a little bit of a match or some subsidizing, but we've got to make a plan moving forward as that is drying up. So I don't know that you want a report beyond the 21st century. I don't think that that's necessary.
I mean, for me, yes, and I think from what we were hearing tonight, we can start maybe with the 21st century and then go from there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, of the 3 different topics I mentioned, that I think that one's probably takes some urgency to talk about it, right? Because parents are going to be scrambling, trying to figure out what to do, right? Like, they're going to need some answers and information sooner than later than some of the other topics. So whatever we can put together, and then if we decide we need more information or to branch out from there, I think it's fine.
I'll get together with the speakers tonight and just be an ear and listen to whatever other details they have, and I can bring that back to the meeting. The Spanish speakers, I mean, and if other people want to meet with the non-Spanish speakers, that's fine too. I'm just saying that would be my pleasure, and I can do that this week. I'll talk to Ms. Vandenberg about it.
That'd be great.
Okay, yeah.
Were there any other things besides those 3 things I mentioned that we need to get on future?
I have something that's not necessarily for next meeting or even the meeting after that, and you probably have plans for this. Amy, just wondering when we're going to see like the data from the last year on discipline and seclusion restraint.
So are you speaking specifically to seclusion and restraint or our annual progress report? Because that latter report is usually in November, but if you wanted seclusion and restraint, that would be something that we have done separately from those reports. Not sure what you were asking for in particular.
Do you normally present that data separate from the report? Okay. And when do you normally do that?
We've done that at different times.
Okay.
So you guys just have to let us know when a good time for that is. Maybe Ruthina and Sean could work with.
Yeah, I don't know what, when in the calendar year you normally do that. I
Yeah.
just thought I would bring that up.
Yep.
And what is it we're talking about, though?
The discipline data and from the past year, as well as the seclusion data.
Like the use of seclusion and restraint?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've done those in 2 different reports. Typically, annual progress report would include more of our office discipline referrals and suspension data, whereas seclusion and restraint we've reported separately from the APR, so.
Whatever works for the team. I just wanted to bring it up. Yep.
Did we already look at that data for the last school year?
The seclusion and restraint, not for this past, not for this last school year.
Okay. But the discipline data we did, right?
We've looked at it different times over the course of the year, a few different
We
times.
got it recently, though, I thought, didn't we?
Well, yeah, you
gave
gotta
us-
wait for the end of the year.
Yeah, and we gave you some data in the last couple of months, remember, it gave you that historical perspective about the last 20 years with the other UAN districts. That was something that we
Okay. I
relayed
assumed-
probably most recently.
I thought since it was, or the year wasn't over, that we didn't have the complete data set. But I
Right.
could be wrong. Okay.
So our ODRs and suspension data sit in the annual progress report, just like ISAS data or our FAST data, and that's typically a November report.
Okay. Thanks.
Never hurts to revisit stuff either, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe think about what kind of discussion we want around that, and if is that an August meeting, or, kind of maybe think about, when.
When?
'Cause, I'd like to look at
like
that too,
said,
but I
yeah.
also, maybe if it's on a lighter agenda day,
Right.
or.
Mhm. Yeah, not necessarily next month. I just thought I would bring it up.
Thank you. Any other topics? All right, that brings us to the end, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, admin team.